And now on BBC One, we return to the Cult Emporium. Welcome once again to the Cult Emporium. And we're back now because, basically, we've gone all the way through Christmas and we've found another Doctor Who episode, haven't we? On BBC One on New Year's Day.
Indeed, we have, but I've just had to clean myself up because I've sat on some soft centres that had been carelessly discarded on my chair. But
Well,
but now I'm ready to travel with you, Doctor Who in TARDIS.
Yes.
To quote Roy.
Yes, we're going all amicus, aren't we?
Yeah.
Today, all amicus. So Doctor Who came back after dealing with the flux, and the first thing the Doctor does is reset the TARDIS.
Yeah, I'd totally forgotten about this plot thread that in episode 1 of Flux there are all these different doors appearing around the TARDIS and lots of goop pouring out of the console. So it's good job that Chris Chibnall remembered.
Yeah. And we're straight into Elf storage with two characters. I mean, really, there was just the regulars, and these other two characters and the Daleks, really. That was the cast list, wasn't it? Apart from the little cameo at the end. We got Aisling B as Sarah, who is the kind of manager of the family business, that's Elf storage, and Ajani Salmon as Nick, who has a crush on her. And in a slightly weird, stalkerish way. But I thought they were both beautifully played. I don't know what you thought.
No, I would agree. I think there's some of the best. Although I said this about Flux as well, but they are some of the best guest characters we've had in a while. I think. And as you say, Nick is slightly stalkerish in his behaviour, but the way the actor plays it, you really warm to him, and you realise that it's actually probably a bit of OCD and the fact that he overanalyzes everything rather than.
I don't know anybody like that.
No, moving
swiftly on.
Although I will say, I do wonder if the only reason he was called Nick was so the Dalek that was voiced by Nicholas Briggs could go at the beginning, "I am not Nick." I don't know. Is it an in-joke?
Very possibly. Yes, and the whole thing, plot-wise, was about coming back into this time loop, and with each time they got there, they had 1 minute less to get to the resolve and defeat the Daleks, which is an interesting plot point, really. I thought it worked very well, and for the I don't think it was confusing. I think that point was made very early on, and so we were aware every time it reset, what was happening. They were trying to get one step further ahead.
Yeah, it's a well-worn concept at this point, which I say is a good thing. Like, the audience will be familiar with things like Groundhog Day and so many different sci-fi series. I'm sure the Marvel films have done a time loop as well. So it's a nice, easy concept that you can get around, that the same 10 minutes keep repeating, that you can get over to a New Year's Day audience, which hopefully has some casual viewers in it as well. I don't think it's confusing in the slightest, really.
No, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I thought the dialogue was really spot on. Some good comic dialogue, particularly to do with his collectability of these items, and Aisling B was great at the reactions, wasn't she? She was going into the various rooms, seeing what had been stored there.
And I love the fact that she kept answering the phone to her mammy.
Mammy, yeah. Mrs. Brown's boys, yeah. Mammy.
Yeah, or it was Mrs. Doyle from Father Ted.
That's right. Yes, Pauline McLean.
But it was it was just so funny that even though it was a time loop and she knew what was going to happen and she knew that there weren't actually any stakes, it didn't really matter whether she answered the phone to her mum. She did it every time. I don't think she ever ignored the phone call, which I thought was great.
Yeah, I mean, just a lovely little cameo bit that didn't mean that much to the plot really, but it was kind of good for the human interaction and fleshing out her character, because obviously you've only got so many minutes on screen where you can spend getting to kind of know the characters really. I
was really pleased how Chibnall filled the hour. It felt really really well paced. There was a couple, I think it was Resolution, the first Dalek Christmas special, where I thought it was a little bit padded. There was some kind of repetition of the dynamic with Ryan and his dad, which had already been sort of stated in the previous series, and it felt like it was slightly lacking in material. Not so in this. I thought it was just nice to have the space to breathe and to get to know these characters, and Sarah and Nick, even though you know that they're not going to carry through to the rest of the series, probably never going to see them again. They were a great pair. I was just as engaged when they were on the screen as when our TARDIS team was on the screen.
Yes, definitely. I think they made quite an engaging pair, really. The on-off thing is kind of constant through Doctor Who with various characters. Will they or won't they? We'll come to the major romantic plot in a second. But it was a lovely kind of take on that. And this mysterious Jeff who was kind of seemingly living there, but we never actually saw him.
Yeah.
And who'd stored all these outrageous things in the storage service.
And I liked how the sort of how it was sort of set up that he was collecting all this weird stuff, and then of course it transpires that the fireworks end up being a crucial plot point. However, the beef and beans
is that a thing? Beef and beans?
Apparently so, but beef product in beans. Maybe it's a substitute for pork sausage. I don't know.
Well, I wouldn't turn my nose up at it when I come in from work one night and I want something really quick. Can't be bothered to make anything, so I'll take the beef and beans.
So can we clarify? Was Nick the only customer for Elf Storage, or were there other units that were occupied?
Well, she did say at the very beginning, "You're my only customer," and then corrected herself to kind of say, "You're my most valued customer," or something like that. So, and she did then also say in that beginning speech about how she got her rival just over the road. So maybe her business was failing because there was a flashy rival over the road with all the, the technology that goes with these new units.
So now the setting of Manchester, it seems to
Manchester.
It seems to have upset some people because it was set in Manchester, but there weren't any Mancunian accents in it. However, I would say, having worked in a shop in Manchester, in a supermarket in Manchester, there could be some evening shifts where none of us have got, where there's a workforce of 15 and none of us have got a Manc accent, because that's what happens in a cosmopolitan city. Yes,
well, obviously these people have never lived in a city where cultures meet.
Yeah, and there were only 2 guest characters, and it was worth setting it in Manchester just to get Dan's remark and disdain for Manx on New Year's Eve. I'm not sure whether that'll translate to into any international viewers, but there's a bit of a rivalry there.
Yeah, and did you notice? Well, I noticed, but did you notice that we had the little cameo at the end from Carl, the crane driver in the Woman Who Fell to Earth?
Yes, I knew he'd been. I recognised him. Well, I recognised him from Coronation Street, and I knew he'd been in Doctor Who. But I was really scratching my brain, and it took me a moment to realise which story he was in, but it did come to me eventually.
He
And I was
looked
like,
he looked a little bit different in this, didn't he? Than
Yeah.
seemingly than when we'd seen him at the top of the crane.
Yeah, I was
But
like, was he or which is great. I mean, I don't know whether it speaks to him appearing in another special.
well, is it just this wild one-off thing, but or you know, is it setting the scene that he may be back in Jodie's final story just to, you know, complete the arc or something? I don't know.
I suppose it's not that expensive to get an actor on the train to Cardiff to shoot something, but we also know that at least Graham is back in the last episode, because I've seen the set photos. So I do wonder if maybe while he was there, they said, oh, I know, we'll shoot a funny bit at the end of the Christmas
a green screen.
Maybe, who knows? But anyway, it was a nice amusing little touch, I suppose.
And I thought it was a great New Year's Day episode. It was upbeat, despite them being killed by Daleks. We got the new Executioner Daleks, which frustrated me a little bit, because they've got these things that word and then, you know, all these fire, and yet they couldn't seem to hit anybody. It was really strange. When anybody ran away from them, they didn't seem to be able to hit them.
I mean, they've been to the same shooting school as the stormtroopers from Star Wars, haven't they?
Yeah. And anybody who attacks James Bond.
Yeah. We've got the Gatling Gun Daleks. I do wonder if maybe it should have just been one Dalek. That might have made it better, but maybe there was a plot hole or something, and they realised that they needed to have two for it to make sense. I don't know. It's just a thought. But it was like, I thought the Daleks were still terrifying, even though it was a small story and it wasn't, there wasn't a lot at stake. I thought they were still intimidating. I mean, they got to kill a lot of people.
Yeah, they retained their gravitas. Definitely in this. Yeah. They were quite the heavies, weren't they? Yeah.
So interesting that this was all the Doctor's fault. Really, it was her fault, or she. The Daleks were looking for the Doctor, and then she also created the time loop. So it's a rare in Doctor Who terms, because usually it's the Doctor going into a situation, but actually this one she created all by herself.
The TARDIS did anyway.
Yeah, the TARDIS did. Yeah. So, are we going to talk about the big sapphic elephant in the room?
Well, what are they calling it now? Thasmin or something?
Thasmin, a contraction of the Doctor.
And it kind of, to me, it just feels a natural progression of what has gone on during the past 3 years, to be honest. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't come out of the blue. Well, what do you think?
The same. It did confirm to me that it was something that Chibnall was aware of, because I had wondered whether it was subtext that it was a choice that was being made by Jodie and Mandip. But this actually confirmed that no, actually the writer has this in mind as well, and has this thought. So I thought it was quite a beautiful moment. My only concern for the future is, I don't know if you've heard of this term called queer baiting, but basically on Supergirl there was a similar thing that they did with Supergirl and Lena Luthor. They kind of intimated that there might be some chemistry, and then the writers leaned into that, and then it never went anywhere. And there is a thing with this storyline that it's not going to end happily, because we know that the Doctor is going to end up traveling on a regenerating or on her own, and that that Mandip's future with the series isn't. So I hope that people are ready for that. I think you could still have something quite beautiful if they ever get that moment on the beach where they get to talk about how they feel with each other. But I would just say to anyone that's really invested in this relationship, please remember it's science fiction, and the Doctor's one of the Doctor's nicknames is the Lonely God. So be ready, be ready for, yeah.
It felt a little bit Wentworth-ish. But as you say, it can only go so far because the Doctor's got to regenerate, and we really don't know of Mandip Gill's if she's leaving the series or not. That hasn't been specified.
But it was really nice to see. We've had this before, this dynamic when the Doctor was in a male body, so there's no reason that they shouldn't do this again, and the gender would mean that they shouldn't touch it. And I thought Mandip played it beautifully, like when she tears in her eyes. And I thought John Bishop as well, making up for the fact that he interrupted the kiss the kiss in the last episode.
And in many ways, John Bishop wasn't as well served in this episode as maybe even the guest characters. He seemed to fade into the background a little bit. But he was there in the important scenes, so good on him.
He has been in the background for so many stories. I think it was nice to sort of have her at the forefront. And I thought, I was a bit perturbed by Dan, because I kept thinking, well, if that was me, I'd be a bit annoyed that I just tell my mate that I fancy someone, and then they go and blab straight away. But I understood what he was doing and making the Doctor accountable, because she is a lot more aware. We've seen the Doctor be emotionally aware in previous incarnations. She does understand how human emotions work, but she chooses to ignore that sometimes and to just carry on and be like, oh, look at me, I'm wacky spaceman. So I thought it was really, really well played. I thought the moment at the end when Dan was kind of standing between the two of them and they were giving each other looks, I thought that was all really, really well done. And that's what you want from the New Year's special. It's like it did advance the characters forward, but there was no heavy division storyline going on.
So what are we giving it out of 10, this special? I think a good 8.5. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I always think it's important to judge the purpose of each episode, and this was the festive special. And what do you want at festive? You want an enjoyable confection, and it certainly was that. And it's one that I think I'll probably go back to.
Yeah.
I think it might be one of my favourite festive specials in quite a few years. So.
Well, I think it's certainly my favourite of the Chibnall Christmas New Year specials. I think it worked really well because it was a pared down cast, which allowed us to focus a little bit more on characters, I think, rather than having a big cast where all the dialogue's got to be divided out to a lot more people.
Yeah. So we had a little teaser at the end of the credits for the next story. And do you know what? It's completely slipped out of my head. What it's called?
Legend of the Sea Devils.
Legend of the Sea Devils.
Yes, indeed.
So, looking from what I'd seen, that I'd read, there was an article or there was a spoiler that had cropped up on Reddit about 6 months ago from some insider that had said that it was going to be about Chinese pirates, which seems to be the case. But of course, nobody really cares about the story about where it's set. It's all about that Sea Devil, which looks great.
Reading between, if you read historically about the ship, the Fleur de la Mar, sunk in 1511. Now, the pirate leader Qing Shi, she is a 19th century pirate. So I'm assuming that the 19th century pirates are looking for the treasure that the Fleur de la Mar went down with, or a couple of hundred years prior to that, and somehow within all this, the Sea Devils appear. That's my kind of thinking, looking at the historical timelines of these things, but could be completely way off the mark, of course. But interesting that I mean, every year that Doctor Who's come back and everybody said, oh, I wonder what returning elements there'll be. I mean, the Sea Devils have been flung around quite a lot, particularly since the Silurians appeared with Matt Smith, and they've never actually made it to the screen.
Yeah.
So
which was also written by Chris Chibnall as well.
I see. There we go. And so it was rather lovely to have the rumours confirmed, because I'd heard that somebody had been spreading the there will be Sea Devils coming back, and of course you with this Doctor Who rumor mill, you go, oh yeah, whatever, and so nice to see that one of the classic models, even though they've only had 2 appearances in the Sea Devils and Warriors of the Deep, they've somehow taken on this mantle of maybe not the A class Doctor Who monsters, but certainly in the B class.
Yeah, and it looked. But I mean, recently we've had, with the Sontarans, we've had this sort of restoration, or what we'll call it, restoration of the Sontarans. That should be the story title. But we've had this, of them being returned to their former glory. So I'm hoping that Chibnall will exercise the same mentality and make them really bloody cool and scary.
Mm. Yeah, I hope so as well. I mean, they've always been a big fan favorite, even though there's only 2 appearances. They've always been a big fan favorite, so that I think there was a general cheer in the air when the Sea Devils appeared at the end of that very brief trailer. And the BBC have released some images, including one of a Sea Devil from this new special.
It looks a bit like it's done with prosthetics. With prosthetics with some CGI enhancements on the eyes, so
maybe so, but
and hopefully Sagan Akinola will, with his score, will maybe reference Dudley Simpson and get all synthy with it. I don't know.
Yeah, all electronic.
Yeah, electronic. I think it was Dudley Simpson who did the Sea Devil score, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yes, I do. Yeah. So people are predicting that the Legend of the Sea Devils will be on Easter. We don't know for sure. But we certainly, I think it's looking likely that it will be an Easter special, which will be great. Yeah. And that will leave us only 1 more episode for 18 months then.
So Russell, I think, gave an interview to the Radio Times recently, and he confirmed that he'd written his first episode, which is the 60th anniversary, and it will be going out in November of 2023, and that will be his first episode. There's been a lot of people have suddenly looked at the calendar and realized, oh my God, we're not going to have a festive special next year, and it'll be the first time. And that's very sad, but I really don't think they're going to scramble to fill that gap. I think we're just going to have to accept that. But I'm sure when the series
repeat the Feast of Stephen,
yes, or remake the Feast of Stephen with with a budget of £20 and show it on BBC
as they originally did.
Yeah, I'm sure you could do that cheaply. I think it's just. I think we know, the thing is, we know that it's going to come back and it's going to be glorious and it's going to be bigger than it's ever been before. So we'll just have to ride this out. And also, I think from a COVID point of view, because they're saying that they're starting shooting in spring 2022 on what was now being called the RTD2 era.
R2D2.
Yeah, they're starting shooting in spring, so that allows for COVID delays, I think, because you can't underestimate how things have been slowed down. In fact, we're going to be talking about when we get around to starting.
Which is interesting to say he's written it, but he's also saying that they haven't cast the Doctor. So does this mean that the special has been written without a current Doctor? Because how do you know who you're writing for if you haven't cast the Doctor? Or Russell could be lying. Russell would never lie to us. He's too nice. I
would say I would like you to cast your mind back to the 50th anniversary. Yes. And I don't know if you remember, there was a whole merchandising branding push, wasn't there? Because you got that sort of, they used the John Pertwee logo with a sort of howl around effect, and there was like a 50th anniversary logo. There was an influx of like more reprints of novels and figures, and Big Finish did a series in collaboration with BBC Audio, Destiny of the Doctor, and it was there was quite a lot going on. And I imagine the BBC's licensees will be like, we quite like when we did that 10 years ago. Can we do that again, please? So I do think that maybe the 60th anniversary should be this separate nostalgia tinged thing where we can look backwards and revel in it and buy all these figures.
Automatically, when you think of an anniversary, you automatically think, oh, what old elements are we going to get back in? That's what gets people excited. Our old companions coming back, our old doctors coming back, old foes that we haven't seen in a long time. That's what people want.
Yeah, and whereas, and Russell didn't actually get to do that. Like Stephen Moffat in 2013 was, got to like bathe in it and just and revel in all of that nostalgia. Russell never actually wrote an anniversary special or a big multi-doctor story. So that would be my guess. No, it completely unsubstantiated. Maybe we will see the Doctor this year, but I think 60th anniversary is going to be a separate thing, and then the new Doctor's era proper starts in 2020.
I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Okay, so great things to come. Let's talk about merchandising, because there's been a major piece of Christmas merchandise. It's Tom with season 17 Blu-ray box set, and I imagine that all of us geeks will have found that in our stockings at some point in December.
Yeah, I love myself.
Yeah, you had to buy it yourself because you've got no friends. But yeah, once again, we're so lucky as Doctor Who fans that we get sets like this, because they're just phenomenal, aren't they? Because they cover not only the episodes themselves, but the extras are just phenomenal. I mean, I don't think is there any other TV series that gets this kind of attention to detail and treatment? I don't know as there is.
No. I mean, part of it is because we've proven there's a market for it. But even then, I think that you can tell there's a love that's gone into it with the people that work on these things, of stretching the budgets and making sure that everything that could be on there is on there. And the wonderful thing that's happening now is that there's because they've been doing the DVD range since early 2000, they've got quite an archive of stuff of interviewees. So like Lalla Ward is currently living, I think, in Monte Carlo or south of France or something. I can't remember, but she's.
No, I think it was on Hong Kong actually.
Oh, okay. I must be thinking of a different actor. But she's living abroad, so she's not available. But there's a new, practically unseen 50-minute interview on the Creature from the Pit disc, because they banked in the mid 2000s and has never been released in full. And it's things like that. It's that they're able to sort of draw on this bank of special features. So the new stuff is great, but there's also all the archive stuff as well.
I have to say, getting a bit sick of Sharda now. I mean, and I know. I mean, I first watched Sharda on a dodgy VHS that was about 5 generations down, and everything was fuzzy. And back in, it must have been the late 80s, early 90s, whatever. And back then it was amazing. But we've had so many bloody iterations of Sharda now that I started to watch the episodic version, which is the latest version on there, and I can't be bothered. I watched about 2 episodes and I switch it off. Another time, maybe. But yeah, okay. I expect this is going to be the very final time we get any shot. I can't imagine we'd have another iteration. But
and I think for the shape of season 17, I think it ends on a high point now. I think if Sharda has been reinstated where it belongs, which is at the end after the Horns of Naimon and before the Leisure Hive. So.
Well, what I want to know is what have you thought of it? Because you admitted to me that you hadn't actually seen all of season 17. So yeah, I know you've been dipping in and out. So just give us a few quick fire thoughts on it.
Fandom, you're all wrong. Season 17 is brilliant. I listened to propaganda that I absolutely understand that there was a lot of budget constraints, but I just think the the ideas on display in that season are really, really strong, and I think you can just see the hand of Douglas Adams in it, and I think he and Tom gel really well. I think where it sometimes falls down is when other actors think, oh, this is funny, and try to be funny and to play up the comedy. But I think the relationship between Tom and Douglas's writing is brilliant, yeah, real pleasant surprise. I think Nightmare of Eden has become a new favourite.
I told you it was good, didn't I? I said Nightmare of Eden's one of the highlights.
Yeah, I especially love the bit in the last episode where the mandrels are being taken back through the portal and like using the dog the dog whistle, and then they sort of go to attack, but it's all sort of half-hearted, and then you just blow it, and then they go and fall back. It's brilliant.
It's the 1970s.
Yeah. No, I think it's a strong season that has its own distinct flavour. We often think of the Hinchcliffe era as being the sort of definitive Tom and it having a real stamp on it, but I think there's something about this Graham Williams era where it's got a flavour all of its own, and when it works really well, like in City of Death, it's great. But even in stuff like Destiny of the Daleks and Nightmare of Eden, there's some gems to be had. The one that frustrated me the most, though, was Creature from the Pit, because it could have been so good. It was like, because it's got all that lovely filming at one of the studios. Ealing, was it?
Yeah, Ealing, I think.
For the jungle.
Yeah,
and then
fabulous jungle.
Yeah, and it's when it gets into the studio, that's when it all falls apart, and it's such a shame that the director was that Christopher Barry wasn't able to go, well, maybe we shouldn't see the monster at all. So if it looks that bad, like, it always surprises me how when they sort of see these things and like, why not just put it in shadow, or don't let us see it, just have reaction shots, try and work around it. But no, it's just there in all of its weather balloon penis-y glory.
Yeah.
Anyway.
A prototype Merker.
Yeah. So is there any special features that have jumped out at you that you would direct people to start with?
Well, I didn't even know we got a new Destiny of the Daleks featurette, which you told me. So I thought that was just something that was on one of the DVDs, but no, that was lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems lovely, and really nice man as well.
And we've got lots of Tom being nutty and at a convention, and also revisiting his childhood in the extra. So I've been dipping in. I haven't watched them all, but I have been dipping in and out, and there's been some really nice stuff. I haven't listened to any of the audio commentaries, so I don't know how good they are. Have you listened to any of the commentaries?
I was doing something on my computer last night, and I had the Sharda commentary on in the background. And as usual, Toby Haydock does a really good job of steering people around and trying to, and getting some new information out of people. So the ones that I would direct people, the special features I would direct people to is, because it's easily missed, there's something from Animal Magic on the
where Tom's on the Creature from the Pit set. Yeah
he's on the Creature from the Pit set, and he recounts, and I'm not sure whether it's scripted or not, or whether it's just the ones that Tom liked and remembered, because he sort of recounts different monsters that he's met. Do you remember the Shrivenzal from the Rebus operation? And what about this one? And it's just lovely, and also it looks amazing because it was shot on 16mm film, so it's worth it just to see that. I'd love to see that incorporated into some kind of documentary in the future, because it's a bit of Tom in character that you haven't seen before. And then the other one is the In Conversation with Bob Baker.
Which I haven't watched yet.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the most engaging of interviewees, but he's a very interesting man, and so humble, and also what a career! Like, he's one of the only Doctor Who writer that's an Oscar winner for the Wrong Trousers, and it's also so sad because obviously it was recorded relatively recently, and then he passed away, and there is a point in it where Matthew Sweet sort of says, you're one of the last man standing from that 70s team, but it's just nice to see him so vital and funny and charming. And then the last thing to say, I think there's a rare interview from BBC Choice with David Brierley, the other voice of K9.
Ah, yeah, which we very seldom hear from.
Yeah, who I actually think is pretty good. I've quite taken with this new K9 voice. So, having not seen much of season 17 before, it's all right.
Yeah, no, he does a good job. I mean, it's a difficult thing to take over from John Leeson, whose voice is so recognisable as K9. But yeah, he does a very good job, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move swiftly on. There's a little bit of Blake 7 news you've got for us. So tell us what it is.
That's right. It dropped on Facebook yesterday. From the account of the Blake 7 1982 annual. You'll remember Rob's review of that wonderful fan-produced annual that recaptured the 80s glory of world annuals. They're going to be doing, in association with a Twitter account called Making of Blake 7. I'd recommend you follow them if you don't already. They drop lots of different production nuggets and paperwork and photographs and all that geeky stuff that we love. They're going to be doing a Making of Blake 7 book, focusing on series. We call it Series A, don't we?
Yeah, that's right. So it's the production of Series A. Presumably, this is going to turn into a set of books. Nobody said that, but we assume, and nobody could do it better than the guy who does the Making Blake 7 tweet account, because he's got access to seemingly everything. From the production and some of the facts and figures and alternate scripts that he puts forward. It's all brilliant stuff anyway, so we're quite excited by that.
Yeah, they described it as a coffee table book, so I imagine there'll be a hefty price tag, because it looks like it will be self-published.
But if we look at the Blake 7 annual, the quality of that was expensive, but the quality was astounding. So I'd rather pay a little bit more and have something of great quality.
Yeah. So that's something to get excited about. And something I'm also excited about is the continuing voyages of the Starship Discovery. Star Trek Discovery Season 4 is in full swing. We've just looked at episode 7, and we've gone on a mid-season hiatus, which wasn't planned. I believe it might be due to some COVID delays that they're struggling to deliver the final 6 episodes, but never mind. We've had a good run of 7, and they're coming back on February the 10th. And we've just left things whereby we've got the ship's computer Zora, who's now, so she downloaded the sphere data at the end of season 2, and then in season 3 she started to develop a personality. and now she's gained sentience and started experiencing emotions, and has decided she'd quite like to be called Zora. And in the most recent episode, she was withholding information because she knew the crew would act on it and put themselves in danger. And there was a whole debate around whether she is sentient or not. And the conclusion being that actually she's a new life form. So.
Yes.
She's a new life form, and she's joined Starfleet. But I thought it was a very Trekkian kind of solution that sort of focused on the language of it seemed like something that Captain Kirk would do to kind of get one over on the computer. But I thought that was quite smart. And then we've had a big debate about this what do they call it? This event. What's the acronym for it?
The DMA.
The DMA, yeah, dark matter
event, or dark matter something.
Anomaly. That's it.
Anomaly.
Yeah,
dark matter. So anyway, that's it.
Yeah, this big thing that destroyed all 2 people on Quajon, and now Buck's very sad about this, and it's also it's also been destroying other ships that have been sent in there, and it's this enriching problem. And great. So there was a big debate about what we do, and we've got dodgy scientist Tarka who wants to just to blow it up, but he's got his own he wants to get back
Yes, he's
to
dropped that little nugget that he doesn't come from this dimension or something, just like thrown in there.
Yeah, so wondering what that's all about, like whether this might lead to cameo from other characters, or is he a baddie? He mentioned that he had a partner that was either on the other side or dead. So will we get to see this partner? I don't know what this means. Will this maybe suggest that there's a multiverse out there, and that the universe that the Chris Pine movies happen in is part of the Star Trek? I don't know, but that's interesting. And there was a good moral question about whether they should blow this up, or whether. And I think if they he wanted to use a antimatter bomb or something that would mean that warp, and basically it would mean that warp wouldn't be possible in certain sectors of the galaxy. And it's like, and ultimately it was voted that they would try and establish contact first, because it could all be a misunderstanding. However, Book and Taka have gone off on their own mission to blow it up. So it's going to be up to Discovery to stop it. Although I'm not sure where this leaves Book, because there's really no coming back from this. I mean, like whenever Michael Burnham breaks the rules, it's usually only putting herself in danger. This is actually putting the entire galaxy in danger. So I mean, he might end up.
Yeah, but he could end up saving the universe, though, couldn't he?
Yeah. Well, if he does indeed save the universe, but he might also end up on a penal colony on Rura Penthe. So
it's possible.
It's possible. So, what are your feelings about Discovery this season?
I think it's been probably the best season so far. I'm thinking I've really enjoyed it. Yeah. It's got variety, and I think it's interesting, the central theme of the dark matter anomaly, the flux, as I shall call it. And I'm interested to see where they go with it. See what's at the core of it, whose DMA it is, so who's invented it, why it was invented. And I think this Taka, it will be central to everything ultimately.
Yeah. And they've not been afraid to mix up the dynamic. There is no status quo in Discovery. There's always be it a new captain in Pike, and then this season we've got Michael as the captain, and we've had Tilly's left and gone to Starfleet Academy. Sure, we'll never see her again. And then at the end of the last episode, Gray went to become a keeper or on a guardian on Trill. So they're always striving to mix things up. There's no.
I mean, that's good, because it means that each season has its own distinct flavour. And it doesn't go into generic Star Trek one season merges into the next. Yeah, so bravo to them.
Yeah, you're right. Because sometimes with the Next Generation, there would be 26 episodes a season, and it's like, and after the uniform changes in the first 2 years, you could stick on any episode of the Next Generation and not have any idea which season you were watching, because it's the same crew. Yeah. So Discovery.
I just wanted to point out that my Liberator, going back to Blake 7, is still in the box, still unmade. See, that's one of the little end bits there. So my plan for this year is to try and get that built, because it's kind of supposed to be a full 18-inch Liberator when it's finished. So I'm going to keep you informed of how that's going. Now, what you have to bear in mind is that I've absolutely no modeling experience whatsoever. I know bugger all about models and painting models and gluing models, and so I think it's my big adventure for this year.
I think you should, every time you go to work on it, you should put a camera on it, and then at the end you can do a time-lapse video, and we can watch you. We can speed it up and then watch you pulling your hair out every time.
Which it will be, I'm sure. So
I
just want to say to note that I had actually purchased this, but I haven't done anything with it. But by the end of this year, hopefully, I will come on here and I will say, here's my beautiful painted, built, shining Liberator.
Maximum power.
But anyway, I don't know quite when we'll be back, because it depends what we've got to say, I suppose, doesn't it?
Yeah, we might have a review of some cheeky Doctor Who Blu-rays that are coming out. We've got Abominable Snowman animation is due this year, and
not till the summer, I don't think. Now that,
oh,
and then this very day, I've seen something on a German website that says that season 22 Blu-ray will be out in March. A website that has a record of giving us the advance info before anybody else announces it. So
yeah.
we shall see. Maybe the Technicolor Dreamcoat will be out in March. Who knows?
Maybe, but I'm sure. Yeah, so I'm sure there'll be something for us to review. We might. I don't think we'll do episodic, but we might do a wrap up on Star Trek Discovery season 4 when that's completely finished.
Yes, absolutely. We'll need a little review of what's gone on there, and also Picard is supposed to be coming along at some point.
Yes, that was due in February, but I'm wondering if maybe Discovery's being moved to February means
knock it back a bit.
Knock it back.
Yeah, because they won't want 2 Star Trek series running at the same time, will they? Yeah. So no. whatever happens, we'll keep an eye on it anyway. Yeah. So thank you for our ramblings today up through the Doctor Who universe with a little side step into Blake 7 and Star Trek. And we will think of something to talk about, and we'll be back with you as soon as we can. So have a great spring, everybody. See you later.
Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper. Yeah. Bye. The Cult Emporium will be back later in the year. An exhibition of bootleg DVDs and lager cans used in the show can be seen on Blackpool's Golden Mile. And this theme single, recorded by the Doable Barkers, is available now from all good record shops.